Hi, this is Danny Doyle, and I'm joined by Casual Jacob, and we have our first Interlude chapter.
Whee!
Interludes are pretty cool. They are kind of, I called them Gaiden last time. They're not Gaidens, they're just marked with the X. But they're kind of breaks in the action, and you get to explore the world, kind of like a My Castle type situation, or Somniel Monastery, but in my opinion, done better than all of those options.
Very true.
Because you move from place to place, and so you're in, like, a new location, and get to explore the world, rather than just explore, like, this is my pocket dimension.
Yeah, you get to see, like, different towns every time you go to an interlude.
And it's not just story stuff. There are, for example, this guy's a merchant. He'll sell us a really good staff. D-rank, essentially like 4-range rescue staff.
It's a pretty... Oh, they put the priority system in here. That's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to show that off. So you can see exactly what the priority is. And the target will be placed on only terrain that the staff user can walk on. So even if they're a flyer, you can't rescue them onto mountains. I didn't know that. So that's good that that's featured and included and told to you.
Yep.
In addition to that, there are story beats. So we get a couple of character previews of people who will join our army later. So we got Peter right here. He's a level 8 Wyvern.
This is one of my favorite parts. You get to take a look at some future units that you'll probably get to see at some point in the future.
Yeah, we're not going to do unit analyses of them, but I am going to show them off because I think it's cool. Probably going to show up in quite a while. 56 HP, level 8 promoted Wyvern. With certain
Probably going to be a little bit.
I think it's going to be a while before he shows up.
Just spoil.
Rift. Rift is another, shows up in quite a while. Level 6 Swordmaster. He's got pretty good magic. Crit bonus, of course. He'll get Killing Machine, which is another crit skill. At level 13. Is there any other? I don't think does he have any other like super relevant skills you think we should talk about?
Well, he has 7 res.
He does have 7 res. And he has Lucky 7. That's that like Fates Trickster skill. That's like, oh, you get like +5 avoid every the first 7 turns, right? Wrong!
It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's actually epic. It's actually epic.
I love this version of Lucky 7. It's so funny.
It's like, I personally do not think Rift is a particularly good unit, but holy shit is he fun to use.
Just every 7 turns, I'm going to kill everything on sight, and then he has to lay dormant for 6 more turns, because let's be real, like, 16 strength, 27 speed isn't actually that fast for a Swordmaster. I won't talk about it too much, but the Lucky 7 is... it's so much fun as a unit.
We'll revisit him, but it's just very funny to have this guy who's like, I'm the most mediocre piece of garbage 6 turns of the week, but then on turn 7, it's like that meme, you know that meme of like, you may think I'm the loser in real life, but in the gaming world, you're the loser. You may think I'm the loser turns 1 through 6, but on turn 7, you best watch out.
He will hit, he will avoid, and he will crit.
The best part about him is he doesn't gain any crit avoid off of that, and he has fucking abysmal luck. So he still faces crit. He doesn't face much hit, but if they can hit him, they can still crit him, which is very funny to me.
He's a very funny unit. I can't wait till we get to see this guy.
And then Estelle is our last preview unit. Oh, no, we have one more preview unit. But
yeah,
Estelle, much like Rift, these stats are not super impressive, especially for the time that she joined. She's unpromoted, so she does get promo bonuses, but bigger thing is just, nice class. And also push move is pretty good. Again, we'll talk about her more when we get to her, but it'd be cool to preview all these dudes.
Peek.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Well, it's just a little sneak peek.
Yeah, just a little sneak peek. And then Merchant, Citizen, Mevion. Last sneak peek. He is, Tomi. I really like this guy too. And this is our first encounter with yellow weapons. Do we want to explain yellow weapons now, or just sort of leave it a mystery?
Ooh, we could just let it be a mystery for a little while.
Yeah.
Surely we'll see a gold durability weapon later, right?
There are
Soon.
weapons. There are other weapons that have gold durability. This is not just an aesthetic choice. Like the gold does communicate something, but ooh, if you haven't played TMGC, leave your guesses in the comment. What does the gold mean? But hey, look, like some personal weapons, personal ballista on an armor knight. That's pretty cool. And then like Honey, he's obsessed with bees. That's cool.
I've never used this unit before, so we'll talk about him whenever we get to him, but, oh boy, what is that?
He has staves and staff Savon.
Very funny unit.
It's a shame that this isn't Beesolve.
Beesolve.
But yeah, there's a couple of things that we gotta do. So, first things first, let's take care of the interlude, like, quest thingies.
Oh my gosh, we can walk around.
Yeah, I didn't even, it's so normal to me. I forgot that that's, like, not a normal thing in ROM hacking. I'm free walking. Like, I'm just walking around with the D-pad. I bought the Yoink staff.
So much fun.
It's pretty awesome, and it does make the world, again, it's like, we're exploring different areas of the world, and each of these interludes is a different, like, major city, or it's not always a major city, but, like, a different city or town or campsite or whatever. Also, I want to show off this guy's dialogue. I don't think I've seen you here before. Since this is presumably your first time in Canonis, I have some free advice. If someone asks you to buy some mystical relic beyond compare, think twice. Some people will scam poor folk out of their hard-earned gold. Like that guy over there. He's got some kind of fancy staff, and he's trying to sell it for 1,500 gold. Normally, it costs you 2,500 gold. The shops don't even carry it. Isn't that a discount? Don't believe in the power of discounts. That's how they get in your head. I once succumbed and ended up sending half my salary on a live duck. He's been a faithful companion ever since. The duck is actually a recurring element, believe it or not.
Hey, it's Tommy.
Yeah, we actually get a gift from Tolme. After we get through all of his dialogue.
A very useful gift for this run, right?
Yeah, remember that honeycomb that I showed off that was in his inventory? Much like the Yoink staff was in the merchant's inventory, the honeycomb in his inventory was a gift. I know that most of this talking doesn't actually mean anything, but I do want to check them off. None of the houses give anything, and the inn also doesn't give anything, but you want to go to every single inn.
Yes.
There is actually, believe it or not, like there's an invisible side quest that tracks if you go to every single inn, and if you do, you get a reward for it. I don't actually know.
Funny.
I've heard conflicting stuff about this, but to my knowledge, it can't hurt to talk to Peter. I've heard some people say you need to talk to Peter in order to recruit him with Blair later. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, I'm gonna talk to him just in case.
Yeah,
you know,
I've heard some back and forth on that, and I'm not sure either.
If you know the answer, let me know in the comments. But also, unless you're Retina, I probably won't believe you, because I've heard people say both ways.
Oh, something else important. While you're walking around, there's what looks to be a save point on the ground. You can access your convoy from there.
Yeah,
If
and
you ever
then we
need
can
to.
also see what, well...
If you need to go, like, shopping, or think about if you forgot to bring something you need to sell or whatever.
Or if we didn't check what the things were before we bought them, like Yoink in the preview and Honey Charm or whatever,
Yeah.
we'd be able to see them. But I am going to take Thunder out. Okay, now I gotta pull out my shopping list. I think I've taken care of all of the errands, right?
I think so. This is so
Wait,
sad.
I think... Oh yeah, so the growth boosters don't do anything in zero growth mode. Was there... I think there was a red gem? Or was this it? No, this was all I had, right? Right. I wasn't factoring in that I paid 1,500. Alright, let me pull out my shopping list and do all the shopping that I wrote down. I know I have the money for this because I tested it beforehand.
Nice.
Alright, so I need to buy an Axe Reaver, a Steel Bow, a Lance Reaver, and a Heal Staff. So Axe Reaver.
Axe Reaver's pretty good.
Steel Bow.
Another steel bow.
Yeah, I mean, Sam's about to not be our only bow user yet. Lance Reaver. And then Heal Staff, I don't think is actually available yet. It was in preps. I think this is just... Oh, no, there is a Heal Staff. Yeah,
I got it.
We'll get a Heal Staff. And then we're nearly broke. Like, that
we
was...
do get some money kind of soon. And
Yeah,
I think
the
there's
king
a
gives us
small
money
gem
in
in the next map.
2 chapters. And then there's also, there's a mini gem we can steal. King gives us money, I believe, at some point, right? After we save his life.
So there will be some money for us to get.
Just desperately running around making sure there's no one I forgot. Okay, so that's the
absolutely
interlude.
certain you got everything. We did it!
So let's conclude exploration. And you might be thinking, well, are you just doing the interlude this map? Yeah, this video is just the interlude, which is why it's a Monday. But, I don't want it to just be 10 minutes long, and even though we did spend a little bit of time, like, explaining the interlude and going through some cutscenes and stuff, we do also get 2 new units. Technically they show up, like, in the preps of next map, but they showed up in the cutscene, so I think that's, you know, enough excuse for us to do a couple of unit reviews. So, let's close out by talking about Cassius style and Rachel style. They're force deployed this map as well. Should we start with Cassius and then talk about Rachel after?
Sure. I won't have very much to say, so you go to town.
So, Cassius is the 2nd Cavalier you get. He's notable for... He has axes, which I would argue are probably... Like, maybe this is heresy, because Game Boy Advance brain rot, but I think axes are the worst weapon type in this game. And they're good early on. Like, hammer is really nice. There's some armors early on. And hand axe has higher might, which, like, in Zero Growth will be nice. But at the later end of the game, axes are not super useful. And I find that, oftentimes you don't want to be an axe unit in, like, the mid-game and late game. Which would suck for Cassius if it weren't for the fact that on promotion he gets bows. So he's basically a mounted warrior, and bows are incredibly good in TMGC. There's a lot of strong late game bows. It does suck that he doesn't get bows until he promotes, so if you wait a little bit to promote him at level 15, or god forbid, get him to 20 for stats, his rank is gonna suffer, and he's not going to be able to use the high rank bows, which are the big appeal of bows. But he, like most people, like, I guess you can patch it up with discipline. Bows are really nice. Being on a horse is quite nice, and complementing that is pass. So he has effectively better move than, like, your other horse units. Speaking of the other horse units, the easy point of comparison to him is Stefan. Because Stefan, you got several chapters earlier, right? He's probably, if you want to train him, going to be higher than level 5. His stats will only be marginally better than Cassius's, on average. Like, obviously, because he's the coin flip king, he could be significantly better. He could be significantly worse. But let's say you've trained Stefan to, like, level 10, right? He'll have slightly better stats in most areas. Whereas Cassius, he's level 5, he's gonna gain EXP faster. And also you didn't need to invest all of that experience in him. Trade-off is, I do think Adept is better than Pass, at least in the early game. But as the game goes on, Cassius' second skill is Charge, which I tried to highlight again. I keep trying to highlight them.
You tried to do it with, press, push move as well.
I did, yeah. But so basically, they gain damage based on the based on the distance that they move. This can occasionally be a non-bow with Pass if you could have gotten extra squares by going around enemies, but instead you go through them. But I think for the most part, Pass and Charge actually work together very well, because he can pass through enemies in order to continue to charge forward and get those charged movement squares. Since Pass extends his effective range, and then he can hit farther away enemies. Like, you will run into some situations where you're like, oh, dang it, if only I could go on, like, a U-loop around this enemy in order to get more charge squares, but for the most part, I don't think it's a huge deal. If you want to get him out of Axe Hell, and don't want to early promote him or aren't satisfied with just being a pure bow cavalier, there is one other way that he gets another weapon rank, and that is through his Rachel support. He gains access to lances. I wouldn't say lances are, like, phenomenal in this game, but they're better than axes. And having access to both lances, axes, and bows is a nice combination.
Pretty good spread.
He also does have a personal weapon, which I believe it gains crit based on the distance he moves, right? So he really wants to move very far.
Yes. That sounds correct.
The funny thing about his personal weapon is there's a stealth Aaron versus Samson situation. So in chapter, I guess this is like a slight story spoiler. In chapter 15, Cassius, Rachel, and another unit we haven't gotten yet named Layla are involved in a series of events that will change depending on how much they're alive or dead. If Cassius is dead, none of the events will happen. If Rachel is dead, but Cassius is alive, then Layla's event will happen, and Layla gets her personal weapon. And if Rachel and Cassius are both alive, then Rachel and Cassius both get personal weapons, but Layla does not. Most people, myself included, consider Layla to be a better unit than both Rachel and Cassius, although potentially not better than both of them combined. So the question becomes, do you want to get a personal weapon for the better of the three units, or do you want to get personal weapons for both of these two units? Especially since the two units, well actually all three of them, can support each other. Because Layla, Rachel, I don't know if Layla supports Cassius, but I know Layla and Rachel support each other, and then Cassius and Rachel support each other, and they give each other weapons. He gives her axes and she gives him lances. So there is, I know that like, at least, I know Jacob really likes killing off Rachel. But I would say that even though I am of the opinion that Rachel is worse than Layla, I think there are merits to allowing her to survive, and giving up Layla's personal weapon. Both because, hey, you get two units with personal weapons, and also Layla and Rachel support is really nice, and also Cassius and Rachel support is really nice. Do you mind if we pause real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I didn't mention his growths because they're not super relevant in this playthrough, but he specializes in strength, speed, and defense, which are really solid stats to specialize in, which is the other thing that, he has over Stefan. Although, I say specializes, like, his speed and defense are still coin flips. It's better than them being, like, 45%, but I think the thing that makes him more solid or more consistent is his base stats much more than his growth rates. Because either of them can sort of, like, throw a growth booster on. I guess, potentially notable, with the ankle weight, he gets above 100, which is the first, or the second growth booster you get, the first non-luck one. He gets above 100% strength growth, which is nice. Just being able to guarantee that.
Let me pull up Spawn's growths as well.
Does, of course, absolutely cut his speed growth, which is a little bit unfortunate. Just for comparison, I'll throw Stefan's on, you're right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, see, like, 55, 55, 45, like, their growths are fairly similar.
I do prefer sacking, like, the resin magic growths and putting them in other stats.
I mean, did he put them into other stats, though? Like,
it's like a little bit more defense, more strength.
Yeah, the strength. The strength is very... The strength is a noticeable lead.
But I'll take, like, the 5 or 10 and, like, 3 other stats at the cost of, like, 15 res or something.
I mean, my point is more that he kind of just lost stats in several areas and then gained in speed, strength, and defense. I don't think it's a significant difference in growth rate. No. I think the bigger deal is Cassius will always have these stats at the start of Chapter 6. On average, Stefan will have slightly better at a higher level. at a higher level. That's relevant. That's relevant that it's a higher level. But also, that's on average. You don't always have your average stats, right? Like, I do think average stats are more reliable than people sometimes make them out to be, but you don't always have them. And it's nice to just have someone who's like, yeah, he's maybe a little behind where you would like him to be, especially in, like, the next 2 chapters, chapter 7 and 8. I think there's some thresholds he's, like, just short of. But these are still solid for the time. And Pass is really nice. Eventually he'll get charged, and eventually he'll get bows.
Oh, I did look up. It looks like the Gale Rider, his PRF that he gets, already has some crit built into it as well. So its whole shtick is, like, it has 30 crit, and then it gets, like, 3 points of crit per tile that you move.
Yeah, I think you can... I mean, if you give him the boots,
a little
too,
bit.
you can get 30, so 60 total if you give him the boots. Leg ring, it can be 66. Like, you can get some pretty absurd crit numbers with it. And even though I'm not huge on axes, their thing is often extra crit. Like, all the weapon types will eventually get we call them offhand items, an item that it's in your if it's in your inventory and you use that weapon type, it has an extra effect. So, for example, there's one for lances that gives them extra range, right?
Yeah.
The axe one converts crit into damage because many axe units have it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but the axe one converts some crit to damage based on, like, some division and stuff, right? Because there's a lot of axe units that specialize in crit, whether it's be like Natasia with Wrath or Cassius with the Gale Rider. And the fact that he can either be like, okay, I've got a coin flip to get a super good crit, or I can just take that as raw damage, is nice. I like it.
Trade in all that crit chance for extra damage. It's pretty awesome.
It is unfortunate that his skill growth is one of his deficits, but we did just get a growth booster. Yeah, we did just get a growth booster that helps with both luck and skill. And then, like, hey, he gets even more crit off of that. I like Cassius. I think that he's fine. I think Paladin caps are not great. So in the long term, I'm not super high on him, especially since I find charge to be less flashy than some other skills that since it is extra damage, which is nice. I find it to be less flashy though than some of the other skills that you get on other units, both that we've gotten already and that we will get in the future. But bows are good, and high movement is good.
I do think because he does have a little bit of hit issues early on. I know a lot of people like giving him Quixotic, and I think it's also a pretty decent idea. I don't know who else you'd really want to give it to otherwise. You're probably going to assume he's getting hit anyways, because stuff's just so accurate, especially in Lunatic. So it's just kind of an extra hit boost to help him out early on.
That is a good point. I guess that is one of the other weaknesses of axes, like if we're just gonna shit on axes this whole video. Like 80 and 90 hit is good, but you could have more. And if you're already a unit who has like a little bit of struggling hit, just axes kind of rub salt in the wound.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like him, but there's room for...
I've yet to use him longer term, so I'm not 100% how I'd feel about him, but just from everything I've seen, he looks pretty neat.
I used him long term in my first playthrough. It's funny, I used him long term in my first playthrough, and Rachel long term in my second one, but I haven't used them long term together. My inkling is that their support helps him more than her, just because axes are not super good, and the units who use axes, who like using axes, I feel like Rachel would not end up being one of them. Although, on that topic, do we want to talk about her?
Yeah, we can jump right over to Rachel.
I spieled about Cassius for a while. Would you like to start about Rachel?
Yeah, because as funny as it is that I've become one of the people most known for, oops, Rachel accidentally died in the mid-game. I actually used Rachel long term in my first playthrough. I gave her the ankle weight, I gave her some boosters, And she's the first flyer in a Fire Emblem game. She has pretty good speed. She also has pretty good magic. So the base magic of, what did she have, like 9 or 8 base magic? 8 base magic, and Falcon Knights get a pretty big bump on promo. So she's a pretty good user of magical weapons whenever you promote her. You can give her like a shot stick or a light brand.
Because we've used magic swords on Aaron and now Butch, but you get a shock stick as well, like an electric lance.
And I think the shock stick also has like 30 crit or something built into it as well. So it's killer magical weapon, which is kind of funny. Yeah, she's kind of almost what you would imagine as your first Pegasus Knight. She's a little bit bulkier than I think an average first Pegasus Knight is, like 27 defense or 27 HP on 7 defense. Pretty nice.
I thought you meant her growth plus her, because she has 20 growth and then 7 base.
No, I mean like
so when you said 27, I thought that you meant like 20/7, and I was like, yeah, I follow what you're saying.
Oh, that was an accident. Something awesome about this game is it doesn't use like an aid formula for anything. So if you wanted to, we get a body ring in this map. So if you wanted to give her a body ring because she only has 6 con, you can and not have to worry about her aid changing, and that's awesome because this game's awesome. Although
6 con isn't enough for an Iron Lance, which is another reason this game is awesome. Like she's weighed down by javelins, and that's what I expect from the low con units. Fucking FE7, FE8, Pegasus Knights getting weighed down by Iron Lances makes me want to blow my brains out.
What else is there? Her skill gives her extra, what is it? It's hit and damage?
Yes. Extra defense and hit. PRT is defense and res. Defense and res.
And I find that I can never really make use of this skill because Rachel's always off doing a flyer thing on her own, so she's never really around Blair to take advantage of this.
It's meant to contrast with the second Pegasus you get, who has a similar skill for if she is not within, like if there are no allies within 4 tiles.
Yes.
So like this is the, you need to be near the Lord and you're doing stuff for the army, whereas the other one is, I think it's called Lone Wolf.
Yeah, Lone Wolf. She
and
just wants to be off doing her own thing.
Literally just, hey, I'm doing my own thing. Which does mean that like, when, I like supporting them with each other, but when the two of them are like doing flyer things together, they both turn off. Their skills are not on. But yeah, as I mentioned,
she gets chivalry at 15, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. That's extra damage against full HP enemies. Right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, as a high-speed enemy, you're often going to be doubling, and, like, you might be able to one round based on the extra damage.
Because if it's, I think it's similar to Fate's Chivalry, where it's +2 damage taken, -2 taken versus full HP enemies.
We can check that. Well, we'd have to go to the map to do it. But we can check that, yeah.
But I'm very certain it's pretty much the same.
Oh my god, I hit the wrong button. Oh my goodness. We can check it. We can check it. We can check it. We're not cutting any of this out. We're not cutting any of this out. We're just, I'm going with the sloppiness. Going with the where is it? Where is it?
It's under
journal. Fudge. Mechanics. Oh no, speed run. Pressure's on. Basic changes, no. Level up skills.
Level up skills. And luckily, because this game is awesome, they're in
charge,
order.
Insight.
Oh, there it is.
Chivalry. Okay. Woo!
Okay, yeah, it's the same as the Fate Chivalry.
Yeah, extra damage and extra PRT. And that's dual phase as well, which is nice, because a lot of units, especially since combat arts tend to be, at least for me, more centralizing than other skills, combat arts are player phase only. So when someone has a, you know, +2 is not huge, but it's also not nothing. So when someone has a dual phase skill like that, it's appreciated. And it's not like she has like the bulk to be super enemy phasing, but it's nice to be able to do that. Like, this is also dual phase. It's nice to be able to do that.
She does get swords on promo, like Falcon Knights doing GBA, and swords are pretty cool in this game.
Yeah, I like swords. And I think that that also helps with the magic of it all. Because magical swords tend to be better than you just get the shock stick, if I recall correctly.
It's shock stick is the only magical lance, and it's only one range, I think.
And there are multiple magical swords, and the magical swords are often better, especially on the high end. Flame sword boosts your magic, and rune sword is Nosferatu. There's not a ton of rune swords in the game, and I think that there are better users of the rune sword than Rachel, but it's still nice that she gains access to them if you want to go the magic route. Yeah, I like her first flyer. I mentioned the Cassius support. She gets access out of that. I have no idea how that could really help her, TBH.
She gets full weapon triangle control, yippee.
Yeah. I guess, are there any scrolls for... There's no, like, triangle adept or press turn skills, right?
I don't think
Scrolls?
so. You'd have to give her, like, one of each press turn weapon.
Yeah, and then you have to raise her ranks on that, which I guess you can do with, like, arm scrolls and stuff. I mean, having the ability to press turn off of a bunch of people on a flyer sounds pretty good. Like, it's one of the reasons I like high investment Alexis, is turning into a flyer. But, yeah, oh, right, she also gets a personal weapon, in that Errands versus Samson PRF situation. She gets the Flying Spike, which is a 2-3 range, or no, 1-3 range? 1-3 range lance.
1-3 range.
Yes. Which is nice, because she already has, as a flyer, pretty high effective range, and so just getting more of that, and then as a unit whose defenses are long-term not great, being able to attack uncountered is really nice, especially if you're only chipping, like in the mid-game. Late game, you're probably one-rounding stuff, but like in the mid-game, Flying Spike's real nice. Biggest thing that I don't like about Flying Spike is it's pretty low durability. It's like 20 durability? Or no, it's 30 durability, but it's on a unit who is usually doubling.
It's 20 durability.
It's 20? Oh, I gaslit myself. Yeah, but it's on a unit who's usually doubling. So, like, it's effectively 10 combats.
Yeah, it's a pretty low durability. The Gale Rider only has 25.
Yeah.
Because the catches, both of those only have like 20 and 25, but the other PRF is 40 uses.
And it is brave as well.
Yeah, so you kind of like combine the uses together into one weapon instead.
But Cassius, while he does specialize in speed, like, 9 base and 50 is a whole other ballpark than 14 base and 90. Rachel will double.
Gale Rider, you want to like stack up your damage, stack up your crit, hit something one time and be over with it. Meanwhile, Rachel wants to hit something twice usually.
Yeah. So I feel like the durability issues hurt her much more than Cassius, in that regard. One other thing that I wanted to touch on. Well, do you have anything to say about Rachel before we move on?
I don't think so, other than just Flying Spike. I find it most useful for if you just really need her to like player phase an archer from 3 range. It gives her that option. Like if you need to attack over a wall, it lets her fight an archer at range without getting countered, which is kind of hype.
Until the longbow archer shows up.
Oh no, what'll we do? Longbows are actually really good in this game. Everything
was calm until the longbow general nation attacked.
Just wait until longbows become viable. Longbows are so good.
I actually, before we move on from Rachel, I do want to talk about how she's the only flyer you get for quite some time.
Yes.
So the next flyer shows up in Chapter 10, but does not have Canto. And in Chapter 9, there's a unit who is a, like, quote-unquote flyer, because they have Acrobat. But Rachel is the only true flyer. Like, as in, you can Canto, you can rescue drop, you can rescue Canto, and you can actually move over things like cliffs.
Flyer with flying utility.
Until Chapter 14, and in Chapter 14, the flyer who shows up is in their own isolated little solo mission with another unit who joins on that chapter. So functionally, Rachel is the only flyer until Chapter 15. It feels like. Like, you know, I'm putting these caveats on it because you do get another unit who can fly and just doesn't have the same level of flyer utility that she does. And you do get a flyer in 14 just they're not going to really be able to assist in the main objective, at least during the first half of that chapter. But I think that sets her apart from often in mainline FE, like, first flyer good, but you do get a second flyer relatively soon. Whereas, like, with Rachel, second flyer shows up, you're halfway through the campaign.
And there are some things that you really want a flyer for in, like, Chapter 9, 10, 11, 13, and even 14 to an extent. You really appreciate having a flyer who can do flyer things in those maps. So I do think she is worth investing into and using, even though I really like the other weapon that you get, but still, use Rachel. She's good. She's awesome.
And consider using Rachel long term. Like, you know, a single weapon is not necessarily worth more than having an additional member of your Air Force who supports the other one really well.
If you toggle the growths for a sec, what's her strength growth?
It's 35. So with the ankle weight, it goes up to, because ankle weight is the next growth booster we get, and it's like plus 50 strength, minus 20
15 speed, I
15
think.
speed. So she ends up with, like, really good, like, Rachel is a very good candidate for the ankle weight.
I think she's one of your best, like, 3 or 4 candidates for the ankle weight, hands down.
Yeah, we talked about, so we got Stefan already, who's another candidate for it just because he doesn't care about his speed. Rachel is in the other camp where she really wants the strength, and her speed is so overkill that losing 15 isn't a huge deal. You do also lose skill from the ankle weight, which does, like, suck a little bit.
But it gave skill.
Oh, does
gives
it?
you 10% skill.
I might be... Either way, it's not super impactful. Like, either you gain a little bit or lose a little bit.
Difference here, there.
But yeah, Rachel is number 2. I think we were talking about it before the video, but there's, like, 4 units I can think of who are really, good candidates for the ankle. Like, everyone wants a stat booster at some point, but they're the 4 who are like, gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
And we'll get another one next map, so we'll talk about them. Well, not next map. Next chapter is this map, but in 2 weeks we'll talk about the next one.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Subscribe. Bye.